And I'm going to start talking about food in Spain and my study abroad experience. So this is a map of the Northern Hemisphere, and you can see where Liz is circling where the yellow star is. That is the location of Spain. It's in the south of Europe, and it's pretty warm. The climate is very similar to the United States, especially where I was staying in Barcelona, which is in like the top right corner of the country. Yeah, so that's where Spain is located for those of you who weren't sure. And so we're going to talk about meal times in Spain first. So this differs pretty drastically from the United States as well, and also what they eat for meals is pretty different as well. So they wake up around the same time every day as we do. School starts a little bit later for them, but they eat breakfast at around 8 a.m. before they go off to school or work. And breakfast is a lot simpler than it is in the United States. They usually just have a quick coffee or pastry or something that they can take on the go a lot of the time. Public transportation is really popular in Spain. So a lot of the times they're eating on the subway as they're traveling to work or school. And like one of the chats said, like pancakes and strawberries sounds delicious. I'm a big fan of that. But like hearty breakfast foods like the United States have isn't quite as typical in Spain. And so lunch is at around 2 p.m. every day, so a lot later than we would normally eat lunch. I'm sure a lot of you are finishing school close to around 2 p.m. every day, but this is around the time they're eating lunch, and it's definitely the biggest meal of the day. They usually have multiple courses. All of the food groups are usually represented in this, and it's supposed to kind of sustain them until they get to dinner at the end of the day. And so at around 5 p.m., they have snack time when they finally return home from work or school. A very popular snack that they eat a lot of the time is chocolate and churros. That's one of my favorite snacks that I tried in Spain. They definitely err on the sweet side of snacks. So that is a fun experience. If you ever get to try chocolate and churros, ask your parents if you can try some. They're really good. So yeah, that's at around 5 p.m. every day. And then dinner. So I would say that it's typical in the United States for dinner to be the biggest meal of the day and usually consist of the most courses and have the most things involved. But in Spain, it's quite different. It's also a little bit later. So maybe at the time you're preparing to go to bed, Spanish people are preparing to eat for dinner. And they eat around 8 p.m. and they usually have a small salad or soup and maybe one other thing to go with it. Right there, that's a picture of gazpacho, which I'll talk a little bit more about as well. But it just is a bunch of blended vegetables that they might eat for a meal. So here is a picture of a My Plate, which a lot of you have probably learned about in school. It's what a balanced meal would look like. And so I just picked some of the most popular foods in Spain, but also some of my favorite foods that I tried while I was there that fall into each of the different categories. So the first one on the top left, the fruit category, that fruit is called a piel de sapo, which stands for Santa Claus melon. That's what it means. I'm not exactly sure why it's called that, but it kind of is like a mixture of honeydew and cantaloupe, if you can picture what that tastes like. It's pretty sweet. It's a melon, and they eat it with a lot of meals, especially a lot of melon is incorporated into bigger meals as well. So like at lunch when they're eating a lot of courses, there's usually melon involved at some point. So then in the bottom left corner for the vegetable section is another picture of gazpacho, which I was talking about before. And so gazpacho is actually a cold soup, which you've maybe never had. I didn't until I had gone to Spain. But it's blended vegetables, and they can either be really, really well blended and it's almost like a broth, or they can be like the picture here where they're a little bit more chunky and they pick seasonal vegetables and just kind of blend them all together and season them, and it's really delicious, and it's a pretty typical meal that you would see in the summertime because it's cold soup, so it's meant to kind of cool you down. Then in the top right there, we have patatas bravas, which is a type of tapa, which are like these small little almost appetizer-like meals. So it's really common in Spain for people to eat multiple small tapas courses rather than one large meal. And so patatas bravas is just an example of a type of tapa. And it's one of my favorites because it's just potatoes covered in sauce and they're really yummy. It's usually some sort of like spicy sauce or like almost mayonnaise based sauce with spice in it, and like diced and roasted potatoes. And they're served at every single restaurant. It's pretty much like French fries. They're really common. And then in the bottom right there, we have jamón y queso, which is just ham and cheese. But ham is like the most popular meat to eat in Spain. It's pretty much everywhere. And the most common way to eat it is in very thin slices with cheese, which is also a form of tapa. So it could be eaten alongside patatas bravas or melon or a bunch of different options. But meat is very commonly, in general, eaten in thin slices like that. And I really enjoyed, I never tried ham like that before either. It tastes pretty different than like sliced deli meat than you would try in the United States. So it's good. And so now I'm going to talk about my favorite dish that I tried when I was in Spain, and it's called paella. And that is a big picture of paella that you see right there. And it's an interesting dish because it's kind of different than a lot of the other things that they eat, but it combines all of the food groups. So there's always seasonal vegetables in it, tomatoes, zucchini, pretty much anything you can think of vegetable wise is thrown in there in different versions, and it tastes really good. There's always some lemon component for the fruit involved, especially with the seafood. There's lots of different kinds of protein that you can put in it. It's pretty common because Spain is near the Mediterranean. There's a lot of seafood. So they have different kinds of prawns there and mussels. Sometimes they'll throw like shrimp in, which is always really good, but they also will put chorizo or chicken in as well for people who don't prefer seafood. And then there's a rice component for the grains. And this meal usually takes hours to cook. They'll put it in these massive pots and simmer it, and they all cook with all the flavors together, and it's meant to be eaten like without separating any of the different components. And it's really delicious. So we're gonna watch a video now how it is made. So yeah, that's what paella looks like. And my dad also got to travel to Spain recently, and he really enjoys cooking. And that's one of the meals that he tried to cook for himself when he returned. And it's a fun thing to try out with your family if you're interested in trying a new recipe. There's lots of different versions and different things you can put in, but essentially it's a mix of all of those different things. So really delicious.